Welcome inside Gillette Stadium, everybody. My name is Mike Petraglia, joined as always by Patriots expert columnist for WEEI.com, Christopher Price. Later tonight, Chris, the Patriots Foundation, the charitable foundation, will hold their annual gala. That's why you see all the cardboard cutouts behind us, or Rob Gronkowski immediately behind us. He is not expected to play Thursday night. It would be a shock at this point if he were to play. But some of the other guys that we are certainly looking forward to seeing playing, number one would be starting quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo. That announcement was made here inside Gillette Stadium. Word got around that Garoppolo would indeed be the starter over Ryan Mallett. Tom Brady will not play. So what do you make of Jimmy Garoppolo getting the starting nod again on Thursday night against the Giants?
I think this spikes the Ryan Mallett trade talk or Ryan Mallett release talk, as you know, at this point in the summer. It's something we've grown accustomed to now. Over the course of the entire offseason, we know for a fact that he was talking, the Patriots were talking to the Texans in the offseason about a possible Ryan Mallett deal. This is going to spike the Ryan Mallett trade talk once again. I'm interested in seeing Garoppolo out there in against a reasonable facsimile of 2s and 3s. We shouldn't read too much into this performance, though, because, again, you're not going to see a whole lot of starters. So I think this is a way to maximize Garoppolo's reps on Thursday night. It's going to be interesting to see how he responds, and it's going to be interesting to see over the next couple of days, with the cuts coming up, what ultimately ends up happening to Ryan Mallett.
Would the Patriots at this point be wise to hold on to Ryan Mallett as a third quarterback at this point, even if Jimmy Garoppolo, which Adam Schefter reported, has not been tabbed as the Brady backup formally yet? We don't even know if Ryan Mallett's going to be held on the roster, if he's going to be cut. What do you think the odds are either way?
I think you are best served by having 3 quarterbacks on the roster at this point. I think Jimmy Garoppolo has been very impressive over the course of the summer. That being said, I don't think that they would be completely comfortable with the idea of having him as your number 2 at this point in his career. I say all that with the knowledge, with the understanding that if someone knocks you sideways, if the St. Louis Rams offer you a second-round pick or a third-round pick, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if a team comes in here and says, look, we'll give you something for Ryan Mallett that you did not anticipate getting, then that's a game changer. But I think really at this point, you're looking at a situation where the Patriots, again, would be best served by having 3 quarterbacks on the roster.
Obviously, that does play into the injury to Sam Bradford over the weekend. He blew out the same knee that he injured just last season. So that changes the dynamic quite a bit on the trade market.
It really does. And I think it's important to note that at this time of year, things are very fluid. The market is dynamic. The market is always changing for players across the league, not just at the quarterback position. That's one example. But you can look at a handful of examples across the league. Don't assume that once the final cuts are made also on Saturday, that's going to be the roster that team is going to take into the regular season. More often than not, there are trades that happen, there are releases, there's some finessing that goes on.
Practice squad.
Exactly. There's when you're talking about the team building process, it just doesn't freeze once they hit the 53-man roster spot on Saturday.
Had the chance to talk to Jimmy Garoppolo inside the Patriots locker room on Monday, and he told me, when I asked him exactly what is the difference between starting and coming in relief of Tom Brady, he said really there isn't any. You have to be prepared whenever your number is called. Obviously Ryan Mallett got that one series on Friday night against the Panthers and did fairly well. He comported himself fairly well and drove the team down for a field goal. But when you talk to Jimmy Garoppolo, the thing that we got on Monday was his humility. And he knows, the quote that he told us was, "I know I'm still a rookie. I know I still have a ton to learn, and it's a lot of the players around me who are going to determine how successful I am. I just have to be able to lead them as a quarterback." That's
a very smart young man, right there. At least he's saying the right thing publicly. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but he's saying the right thing publicly. He's telling us, kind of what we want to hear, for lack of a better term.
And what the coaches want to hear, more importantly.
Exactly. I will say this, and we've talked about this over the course of the summer, he's been good in that locker room. When it comes to commanding a huddle, when it comes to working in a leadership role with some of the younger guys, it's kind of tough because you are in a leadership role and they almost have to kind of defer to you. The veterans have to defer to you, but at the same time, he understands that he can only do so much as a rookie. Again, he's showing the proper level of depth.
All right, you mentioned some of the other moves that took place over the weekend. Obviously on Sunday, news being made that defensive lineman Tommy Kelly and Will Smith, a couple of veterans on the roster, Will Smith brought in the offseason to add some depth. Really, frankly, didn't show that much. Maybe not all his own doing, not all his own fault. but he didn't show a lot. And also, there was 3 cuts made. What did you make of all of the cuts over the weekend?
The biggest and most surprising to my mind was Tommy Kelly. I thought Tommy Kelly showed very well over the course of the offseason. They brought him in here. He's a good locker room guy, and they had a lot invested in him, quite frankly. He was a guy who got injured early in the year last year, hung around, really reworked his deal to stay here, and really did his due diligence when it came to the rehab process. Got back on the field in relatively quick fashion. I wouldn't be surprised to see him back on this roster in some form or fashion in 2014. We've
Under a non-guaranteed situation.
Exactly. We've seen that from veterans here in the past before, where they're cut and then they're brought back after the first of the year, so their contracts aren't guaranteed. He'd basically be on a week-to-week deal. The James Anderson one surprised me a little bit because they don't have a lot of depth at that linebacking spot, particularly when it comes to working with that coverage linebacker. So I would be surprised if Anderson was out of the league completely. I think he's going to hook on somewhere else. To your point, Will Smith, I think he struggled a little bit. He was a little bit underwhelming. I think those backup defensive ends, Will Smith, Jake Beckett, Michael Buchanan, all struggled to get a consistent push on the passer over the course of the summer.
Obviously, Michael Buchanan is somebody to keep a close eye on Thursday. He spoke to us on Monday, and he said, I know that I have to separate myself from the group. I think I've had a good camp in doing that, and I would tend to agree with him. I think he's put on some weight. He told us anyway, he weighs 265 pounds. He had to put that weight on to be more effective on the defensive end, setting the edge, stopping the run. You think he's done that?
I think he has. I think he's shown enough improvement over the course of the offseason, at least from the practices that we've seen. What I want to see from him going forward now, like I said before, is more consistency. I think he's got to do a better job getting pressure on the passer. He's done very well in terms of setting the edge, at least from my perspective. But if you want to be able to show more in this league, you want to be able to hang around the league as long as possible, you have to be more consistent. I think that's the one thing he needs to bring to the field going forward.
All right, some of the other things you'll be looking for on Thursday night. Any of the starters of significance get any time whatsoever? I mean, you would have to figure there are, 87, 85 players on the roster. They're all backups on Thursday. Is that the way you see it?
If you're a starter on Thursday night and you're getting significant time, that's a bad sign. I'll say that. I don't think anyone of any real significance. I mean, I wrote this over the weekend.
Right.
Brady, Revis, Edelman, Gronkowski, all of those guys, I'd be shocked to see them on Thursday.
Here's a name I want to throw at you, and he played a ton on Thursday night, and I thought he handled himself very well, Petraglia. He was a guy, I thought, Chris, came in here as an underdog to make this roster, but he has shown, I think, in the preseason games, to be very versatile at both the free and the strong safety spot.
Exactly. I think that's a great point. I think, however, it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out, because they have a lot of those guys. They have a lot of those safety/special team types. They don't all do the same thing, but they're all in that same category where, you can look at guys like Kenoris Davis, Nate Ebner, Tavon Wilson, Patrick Chung, Matthew Slater. All of those, you can only carry so many of those guys, and I think he may be the victim of a numbers game. I do agree with you. I think when he was in there, I think he played well, but I think you have to start looking at who you can carry and who you can't carry.
Right. And
I think that not all the guys in that grouping, that positional grouping, are going to end up being here. Maybe you put one on IR. I don't know, if someone gets banged around a little bit. You find a way to keep one or two around here. But I'll say this: I know obviously Slater's job is secure as the special teams captain. You would think. Ebner and Tavon Wilson were here last year. I think Tavon Wilson's maybe on the bubble a little bit.
I think Ebner looks good. I think he's too valuable, and I think the coaching staff loves him.
I agree with you. I agree with you on that point. But that leaves one less spot for one of those guys, and I think one of those guys might be Patrick Chung.
Interesting to see if and how much indeed Patrick Chung and some of the other veterans play on Thursday night, if they play at all. Obviously, it figures to be a big game for the 2s and 3s. A lot of players, a lot of non-roster invitees, fighting to make an impression, fighting to make the 2014 Patriots roster. That'll be Thursday night. Yours truly will be inside MetLife Stadium, bringing you all the action on WEEI.com. Christopher Price, I'm Mike Petraglia at Gillette Stadium, WEEI.com.